I felt like that I had the wrong body, that things just weren't right. But you kind of pass that off because there's nothing that you can point to say, oh, I am this. There's no model to go by. It's hard to describe because there wasn't any trans anything in any news, any resources. I had no knowledge that there was anything like trans. So what I used instead of the internet was what was the Amazon of the time, which was the Sears catalog. And I always was happy when the Sears catalog came because I spent hours and hours flipping through all of the women's wear, all of the women's clothing, women's shoes, anything to do with women. I always looked at it in the catalog. And one of the things that made the catalog great was that it also had toys in it. So I would put a finger where the toys were and be looking at the women's stuff, and if somebody came in the room, I could flip real quick and be into the toy section and not be doing something that was suspicious. I could identify with the people I was looking at in the pictures. In my childhood, I have very few pictures, and maybe one of the reasons I became a photographer was to get on the other side of the lens and not be in the picture, because those pictures didn't relate to me. I don't know that I was old enough to really be able to pin down what I was feeling, I just knew that it felt good. I just knew that it felt like the right thing. I was attracted like a moth to a light, It's like, I like those things. I want to look at those things, I'd like to wear those things. But then I knew I couldn't, so put it away. And it wasn't just clothing. It was the way that women behaved with each other and with other people that I felt more natural with. And it's interesting, I remember one time I was probably in junior high. We were at somebody's house, and one of the guys had just broken up with his girlfriend. And of course, then everybody kind of separated, and the guys were outside and the girls were in the house. And the guys were all doing the macho, yeah, I didn't need her anyway, the bravado stuff. And the girls were all in consoling her and everything else. And I just wanted to be so much in with the women because I identified with their compassion and supporting each other versus the bravado of the male. And I just never connected with that. I had to compartmentalize it because I knew that it was wrong. And as I got older, any man that wore women's clothing was a pervert. And I knew I wasn't a pervert, but I knew that it was, society treated it as very, very wrong. So as I progressed in my life, I always tried to get rid of this. I didn't want to have these thoughts. I didn't want to be attracted to that. So I did what I was supposed to do, what the other boys were doing, and I played sports. I played football, basketball, baseball. I ran track in junior high, and I was good at the sports, especially football. And I think that one of the reasons I was good was that I had no respect or care for my body. When the coaches wanted somebody to hit hard or to demonstrate how to hit hard, it was me. I would speed up as I was coming to a collision with somebody instead of bracing for collision. And I remember one time I hit so hard that I broke my face mask and my chin strap and then put my bare face into the running back's, chest. And it's just, I had no regard for myself. And so some of that came from kind of a feeling of not caring about myself because I didn't feel right, And that even projected even further to things like sunscreen. I didn't do sunscreen young. I didn't put on moisturizer because it's like, I don't really care about this body. This body is not the right one for me. I didn't have those words at that time, but I didn't care about preserving and taking care of myself in those ways back then. I was ashamed or embarrassed by my body. And one embarrassing highlight of this, I went to a sports camp one summer, and we had to change into swimsuits to go do some pool stuff. Well, even in a locker room full of guys, I was embarrassed by my body, and I managed to get inside the locker to change into my swimsuit. And in doing so, I caught something in the zipper on the swimsuit and had to not scream and get it out myself, and that's how embarrassed I was. One of the things that's interesting is as I meet and get to know trans masculine people, one of the first things most of them want to do is go without a shirt as they transition. That's their freeing moment, is to be shirtless in public. And yet, when I was a male and had every opportunity to be shirtless, I never was. You know, I took off a shirt to go swimming or something, but other than that, I never did because I wasn't proud of my body. I didn't like my body. There was an isolation that you build. And I've talked to other trans people, and you build an isolation around yourself because I learned that I could not say what I was thinking. And that got down to little things, like if I was with another lady and she had on a really cute top, my brain would say, oh, that's a cute top. But no guy says that, you know? So I would have to just filter it and say, don't say anything. Just keep this wall around you. Don't let anybody in close, because if somebody gets in close, they may find out your secret. And at that time, and even today, quite a bit, finding out that someone had secret desires to dress in women's clothing or to be a woman, you know, that's something you have to come out very carefully and be prepared to come out for. And you don't want that secret getting out ahead of when you're ready. I continued doing things in my life that I was supposed to do. One of the things I was supposed to do was get married. I would go to work, come home, sit in a chair, watch TV. I watched a lot of Braves games because there was one on every day, but I began to experiment. And I would have the opportunity to get some women's clothing one way or another, either buying it or maybe my wife would give me something to take to Goodwill and it would go to my secret stash instead. And you go through this period of gathering clothes and purging. So you gather a few things and then something says, or all of society says, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing this, you feel guilty, you hate yourself for doing it. And there's a lot of self-loathing for, you know, not being able to stop yourself from being attracted to doing this. So eventually at some point you say, I'm never going to do this again, and you purge everything, you get rid of it. I'm going to stop this, it's wrong, society tells me it's wrong, I'm never going to do this again. And then you go back through the cycle and you do it again, and then you go through another purge. So I had done that a number of times, you know, over a number of years, and I had always had the desire or wondered what it would be like to be fully presenting female. Because when I do this was just like putting on a few articles of clothing or something, not really getting dressed up to where I could go out. And then a friend of mine died. He had been a friend for 40 years, and he got cancer and died within a year. And that kind of struck me as, you need to do what you want to do with your life now, because you may never get another chance. And so I kind of went about a plan to say, I want to, one time in my life, present as female. Fully makeup, hair, everything. I want to be female one time to see what it's like. I found a local trans woman who would help and do the makeup and so forth. And it just so happened that the date that was best for me was a date where there was going to be planning for a trans conference here in Atlanta. So I made arrangements for this lady to do my makeup for me. She came to my room, did my makeup, and then I was able to go out and go to a karaoke party they were having. So I got to meet a lot of trans people, and it's like, this is amazing. There are more people like me and more people who are, you know, just like me, and I couldn't believe that. And it felt so good being able to go out. But I think the thing that really struck me was In all of my years of thinking about doing this, I always assumed that I would have so much adrenaline and I would be so nervous and I'd just be shaking if I ever got to be fully made up and fully presenting as a woman. And when I saw myself in the mirror, it was like this blanket of calm came over me. I was actually seeing myself for the first time. And that was powerful. So after this first experience of seeing myself and having the joy of going out, it felt natural. It felt right, but I had to go back to being male. I had to go back to my regular station in life. But I knew I needed to do it more. So staying in contact with this person, she introduced me to other trans friends. And we would go out and do things like go shopping at Goodwill, thrift stores, shopping for clothing and stuff. And that was just so exciting, so much fun. And it was great hanging out with them and becoming more comfortable going in public. I remember vividly one day, after we'd been out thrift store shopping, we came back and it was time for me to go back to being male. And so I went to the bathroom to take off my makeup and everything else. And it hit me like grief. I fell down in the bathroom crying because I was having to change back. And that's when I knew this is not some fun, makeup game of Playhouse. This is serious.